Welcome to the News9 Plus Show on the world's first news and current affairs OTT platform, News9 Plus. A very warm 75th Republic Day to you all. Now, Republic Day parades are something we all look forward to. They're about showcasing India's cultural diversity and its military might. But today, we witnessed another aspect, Naari Shakti, or woman power. Women have been part of all Republic Day parades, but for the first time, we saw tri-services women marching contingents, 100 women artists playing Indian musical instruments, a tri-services marching contingent of 144 women, a first ever all-woman contingent of Armed Forces Medical Services, all-women marching contingents of the Central Armed Police Forces, tableaus highlighting Naari Shakti, and a fly past with women pilots in military jets. We're talking about women of the Republic today, and we have a distinguished panel of women who've excelled in their respective fields. I'd like to welcome Advocate Rebecca John, screenwriter Advaita Kala, Archana Garodia Gupta, and squadron leader Deepthi Kala. And of course, my colleague Geeta Datta in the studio this evening. Welcome to the News9 Plus Show, ladies. I want to start by asking Advocate Rebecca. Ma'am, what were your thoughts on the Naari Shakti aspect of today's parade? I think it caught all of us by surprise, and I think it's one of the best parades that I've seen in a long, long time.
So I'll welcome all of you, and I'll greet each one, every Indian, a very happy Republic Day. It is a matter of great joy that there was a all women contingent marching through New Delhi today as part of the Republic Day celebrations, and it shows what a long journey this has been for women. From a time when no women were taken into the armed forces,
Yes,
to today where they were proudly displaying their skills for the country and the world to see. It's a moment of great pride and joy. So I was no different than any other viewer. I felt terribly pleased and happy and honored to witness something like that.
awesome. And Advaita, what were your thoughts on seeing the all-women marching contingents? I think that was such a different take on our traditional Republic Day parades that we've been so used to seeing.
Absolutely. I think what a celebration for the 75th year of India's Republic Day and the Republic Day parade. And 75 years too late, I would say, but it's here and it's more than welcome to see women take to Kartavya Path, match strides in defense of the country, in patriotism. Our scientists, our women scientists, who are such an integral
Yes.
part of our defense, were also present there. And I'm just so happy because growing up as a little girl, I never saw women on the Republic Day parade unless it was dances or cultural things.
That's
So I
right.
just feel such joy for the little girls and the young girls of today who have watched this parade this morning and seen so many role models from all walks
Yes.
of life. And I think it's an incredible gift to the girls of this country on this 75th Republic Day.
Incredible gift for the girls of this country. And Squadron Leader Kala, women have been in the services for over 3 decades. But it's only now that they're getting to command units. We saw the first woman commanding officer of a naval warship. What's the road ahead, you think? I mean, what's your takeaway from the parade firstly, and what do you think, what more needs to be done to encourage women to join the armed forces?
So, Sandeep, first of all, Happy Republic Day, and I would
Happy
like to
Republic
add
Day to you too.
something very interesting today to your conversation, that I am an alumni of 26th January Parade. So I was part of the first all-women contingent
Right.
the tri-services in 2015. And it's been 9 years then. Now, I'll tell you the real difference. So when that happened, the entire country was talking about it because it was the only contingent, like all
Yes.
the three services had their women contingent.
Right.
But today, But today, now the Ahvan happened with all the women. And
Right.
then one by one, every contingent was most of the contingent were of
Right.
women. So
Yes.
earlier we had to wait, when the women contingent is going to come. But today, it was extremely special to me because now I did not have to wait. I
Right.
knew that the Nari Shakti is there all around. So
Right.
yeah, I'm extremely, extremely happy with the progress that we have made. And I really hope that it continues. Coming to your second question, that what do we see, in future? We have come a long way. It has taken time, but we give the due respect to, the kind of evolution we people have had as a country. But then, if we have come this far, I'm sure we have a very bright future to see. Now, we have seen today morning SCON leader Shivangi in the Rafale,
Yes.
and of course the first warship is being commanded now. So I see that there will be a day when we won't be even talking about whether it's a man or woman.
Right.
I have that kind of vision that we are so equal in our responsibilities that it naturally feels that it's the way to live.
Right. It'll actually come down to that, Geeta, one of these days.
Yes.
Like Ma'am Squadron Leader Kala was saying that, you had to wait at some point for the women marching contingent, and now it's like, it's literally 50% of the parades today were all of women, and
yes.
it's a remarkable achievement, and I just hope it continues. But Archana, I want to come to you. What's your takeaway from the Naari Shakti parades that we saw today? How tough is it for women in the business field, really? Because we hear that women are not considered good with money or with business, and we've seen how poorly represented women are in the boards of the Nifty 50. What are your thoughts on this?
I think, as Squadron Leader Kala said, it has been a long journey. We have been, over the centuries, literally, I can say over the last 100 years, women have been participating to a greater extent in business and in public life, in all sorts of professions. And we see this. We are seeing it manifest itself, and at a certain point, when you have 1%, 2%, 3% participation, it's not visible.
Right.
But at a certain point it becomes visible,
Yes.
and then you have a critical mass, and then the process will not stop.
Right.
So we have seen it in the field of education, right? More than 50% of graduates, I
Yes.
think,
Yes.
in so many places are now women. That is going to reflect in the work life. It is going to reflect in it's going to reflect in the professions. It's going to reflect in the army,
Right.
and hopefully soon, not very far away, we will see equal representation in all fields. Till then, we all have to work very hard that it keeps going in the right direction, and it
Right.
keeps moving faster and faster in that direction.
Equal representation in all fields. And Rebecca, I want to come to you that about the legal profession. You're one of India's top lawyers. Now, the legal system is majorly male dominant. Women lawyers are just 15% of the enrolled lawyers. How does this, gender imbalance play out in courts? And what needs to be done to get more women into the legal profession?
Well, from the time I joined the bar in 1988 till today, there's been a large change, a huge shift. When
Right.
I joined in 88, particularly on the criminal side, which was the side I chose to practice in, I was the only woman lawyer.
Right.
And so there was a great degree of awkwardness before I appeared in court because everybody looked at you, judges stared at you, your co-counsel stared at you, and it was felt that and particularly the criminal side was not the area where women should practice.
Yes.
Women, even if they were practicing at that time, they were
Right.
practicing family law and more traditional aspects of the law. So in that sense, I did see the pushback in 88. Today, I see a lot of young women
Right.
practicing in courts. Clearly, the number imbalance has gone, particularly in cities like Delhi.
Right.
But the test is, will they last the distance? Because this is a
Yes.
tough profession,
Right.
and it is male dominated. There is an imbalance, and therefore, if women are not given the environment
Yeah.
which empowers them and which gives them the space to practice as equal professionals,
Right.
then there will be a dropout rate.
Right.
And I see a lot of frustration in young women lawyers while they are making huge strides. I don't think we've still achieved the space
Right.
where particularly their male colleagues give them the respect and the space to practice as equals. It's been a long journey even for me.
Right.
But while I see increase in numbers, I hope to see qualitative change in the years to come.
Right. What kind of qualitative change would you like to see, Geeta? You know, the fact that, as Rebecca was mentioning, she was the first, criminal lawyer of repute in the country, and
Sandeep, in the journey of this republic, today everybody takes television news for granted.
Yes.
And they don't forget. There's a whole generation doesn't know that there was no television news. It was only Doordarshan news,
Yes.
and it was largely following, the Prime Minister where they went. You had Prime Minister dancing or
Right,
meeting,
right.
and it was a very soft news. And then, lo behold, comes my first boss from the US and
Yes.
decides that there is no television news, and there was no channel, and she launched it on a VHS.
Yes.
And Madhu Trehan, launched News Track, which again is something that people know. And then all the people who joined in were, in our office, we were largely women
Yeah.
who were there, and there were men and women. And today, when you talk about, say, Dancing on the Grave,
Yeah,
on OTT, or you talk about Lalu for the scam, or you talk about Ram Temple's court case, which
Yes.
was, fought for such a long time, and then this thing came. Or you talk about Kashmir files, or you talk about, anything of that. Our journalists were still being called to come and give, be there as part
Yeah,
of the case,
yeah.
because we did that kind of journalism. So we were the first to start television
3
journalism.
decades ago.
Three
Yeah.
decades ago. And today, people don't realize the length,
Yeah.
that we've traveled for so long and come here. And it was started by a woman.
Right.
And but I feel it's funny that where you started at a level and instead of going up, we have a lot of women force in media, at
Yeah.
least news and current affairs channel, I'm talking about. I am sure Adwaita will talk about film industry being the same.
Yes.
But there is a kind of discrimination or making you fit in a certain kind of stories or the kind of
Yeah.
roles or a
Yes.
certain kind of thing, and they don't
Typecasting,
want typecasting you
yeah.
totally, even in news.
Right.
And it's funny because when we were doing news and current affairs, I remember a marketing person coming and walking up to us and telling Madhu that, oh, if this one doesn't do this, we'll send them on the toughest assignment. And Madhu started laughing and she said, you're talking to the wrong people.
Right.
Because here people fight to go for the toughest. We've
Yeah.
got jungles of, the operation that happened in Assam, the
Yeah.
military operation, or everything must go. You were picked up by the terrorists, blindfolded
Right.
and taken, and for an interview. They were all being done by women.
Yes.
And I find all of that missing. So it's really sad that from 87, when Madhu started News Track, we joined in 90s. Instead of going up, we sort of come down,
Right.
and I don't know why that has happened. It's also, I won't say it's only the men, it's also the women themselves. Maybe they don't want to step out. I'm going into now a territory of how the television news industry
Has evolved in the last
but
3
it hasn't
decades,
gone
yes.
up, is all I will say right now.
So Adwaita, you're a very, very well-known screenwriter, and tell us the kahani of women in the entertainment space
Nice.
over the last few years. I'm talking about Hollywood, where you have Greta Gerwig, who's just cracked $1 billion movie, but
Yeah.
she's not recognized at the Oscars. How's the state of the Hindi film industry, Adwaita?
Well, it's not very different in that sense. There's a new film that's out, and there's always this speculation about the remuneration of stars in these movies.
Right, of
And
course.
I can't really attest to the fact that this is correct or not, but the male and female leads of this film are superstars in their respective categories.
Yes.
And the female lead is earning about a little less than a third of what the male lead is getting for the film,
Right.
right? And because I know a little bit of the industry, I know that this is not a wild rumor. It's probably very true. maybe a couple of CR here and there, but this is how it works.
Right.
So there's definitely a boys' club. I was exposed to this very early on in my tryst with cinema, when I wrote a film, and everyone was focused on locking the hero of the film, although both the
Right.
characters were given enough emphasis in my writing. So they were both parallel leads, but there was a lot of emphasis on cracking the right lead actor. And once we locked him, then I asked innocently, rather, like, who's going to be the female actress? And the response I got was, oh, it could be any one of these, one, two, three,
Oh,
four,
right.
6. And I said, I mean, this is incredible. And it was sort of the first insight I had into this industry, which has made it a place that I enjoy working in, because this is my work, but also a place where I'm not entirely comfortable or entirely fit in either. And I think that is something that women in all walks of life, in all fields, experience regularly. Apart from that, there's also the imposter syndrome.
Right.
Society has to a certain extent conditioned you to look at any professional success that you might have with a sense of guilt, and now marry that with the sort of shaming that often happens with any kind of success that a woman
Right.
accrues to in her field of work. It's almost always attributed to a man. And these are just the realities of being a working woman in fields across the board: corporate life,
Right.
media,
Right.
legal. I mean, I don't know enough about the forces in terms of, it's so still new, but certainly, I mean, this is very much a part of our experience as working women. And I think I'm particularly very grateful to the working women of the 80s,
Yeah.
who were really the first generation of Indian women who stepped out of their home and really took on these challenges head on. And when it comes to women's rights, women's participation in public life, in corporate life, in working life, I really think we owe it to the women who came before us more than any other entity, be it politicians or social gurus or anybody. I think we really owe it to the generations that come before us, and really what we leave behind for the generations that follow will be our personal contribution to this fight. And let's make no mistake, it's still a fight.
It's still a fight, and I want to ask Archana this point about this women in the workforce. Archana, the fact that we have one of the lowest ratios of women in the workforce, even lower than that of Bangladesh, and that's actually impacting our GDP. Why do you think this is the case? Is it because women are asked to choose between their work and choose a work-life balance, and they end up choosing to stay at home to start a family, for instance?
So this is a subject which I have worked a lot on, and I'd like to share something with you. Iceland is the country which has the highest, which is ranked the highest on the gender parity index.
Yes.
So we studied Iceland. We invited the ambassador to come and talk about the policies which Iceland did.
Yeah.
How do you reach that position? And interestingly, he said that the basic change happened in Iceland in the early 70s, when they extended school hours till about 4:30.
Right.
So what happened is that the women basically got 8 hours guilt-free work time.
Right.
And if you see the countries, after that we examined other countries. If you see the countries which have high participation of women, relative parity in, the incomes they earn, and these are countries which have very good childcare systems, where mostly the school hours are long, or they seamlessly turn into childcare. So this is something which we need in India to implement. Because if you see, I'm from IIM Ahmedabad, 50% of my batch women are not working. I looked at a batch 8 years junior, and it was true for that batch as well. So why are these women not working? It's because they were staying at home to look after their children.
Right.
If the society does not provide a childcare mechanism, then these are valid choices for the women to make. So as a society, unless we take care of this problem, you will have, attrition, people will drop out at various stages. And once somebody has been at home for 10 years, then it's difficult for them to get back into the workforce, to get back a job. And especially if their colleagues would have moved on, to a position 10 years senior. So it becomes
Right.
very difficult. So I think one of the major things we need to address when we look at women in the workforce, and women in India has actually been falling. Women's
Yes.
participation from 40% to nearly 20% now.
20%. It's one of
So
the
unless
sharpest
we,
drops globally. It's alarming, in
it's
fact. Yeah.
yeah, it's dropping, and it's because of we're not taking care of this. We're not taking care of this issue, and unless we do it, we are not going to move ahead really with women. We will, but
Yeah.
very slowly.
Yeah. It's
But
it's
if
like,
we solve this problem,
Yes.
like if you allow schools to hold after school classes, or
Right.
in the government schools you provide childcare or something like that, then
Yes.
we'll get a solution.
Geeta, it's alarming, isn't it? I mean, one step forward and two steps back, women in the workforce. You had a question for.
No, I wanted to
Squad
ask
leader
a squad
Kala.
leader because
Yes.
out of I wanted to be a fighter pilot, and that time there were no women in the force. So I was
Right.
I
You
come
were
from an
ahead of
army
the time.
background, you know
Yes,
it, and I
yes.
wanted to be one fighter pilot, and I was told, sorry, there are no women there. And by the time
Right.
it happened, of course, it was too late for me. But for me, I think one of the standout moment was to see the lady flying Rafale. So
Rafale
that was
today, yes,
fantastic.
yes.
That was a big kick for me. But coming from an army background and having cousins and everybody around, I wanted to ask squad leader, when you fought and you became a pilot and you joined the forces, but how was it when you were dealing with people? Because that was the first battle was won when you joined, but the greater battle must have been working with, the male counterparts. How was it when you were working there and taking them? Has that changed happened? Do you think, has the thinking changed? Are they more accepting now of women coming into the forces?
It's such a beautiful thing to share because I was listening to Archana, and this was one point that I've been pondering upon for years, that this is one of the factors, that if the society itself is not providing us that kind of environment wherein we can grow and flourish, then it is just not possible. And I think this is one of the reasons why the drop has happened. And when it comes to me joining, of course, so my father is also retired from the Indian Army, and both my parents were against my wish. So I think I was a kind of person who was defined or destined to be, an officer in the Indian military, because since childhood I had only one dream. And in the SSB also, I said that, when people asked me that, do you have a boyfriend? I said, no, I don't have a boyfriend, because my first and last love is the uniform, that's it.
No.
So that's the kind of love I share with the uniform. And coming to this parity, there's a very beautiful thing, I would say, that we in defense are very, very different from our counterparts. There are a lot of things which have taken place for the good of for women officers. Again, I owe it to our previous officers. At that time the maternity leave was only 2 months. Imagine women officers leaving 2 months baby behind and joining the duties back. Now the maternity leave has extended, the childcare leave has come up, and also our residential area and the office area are quite nearby, so we don't have to travel much. So we when we have small babies, we are given little those mini breaks to go and feed. So that gives a lot of mental peace, to
Right.
us to accomplish both the parts of our duties. And at the same time, when it comes to the professional work, I would say I have not seen uh, much of difference when it came to, of course, we are in minority, in a unit, there would be hardly one or two women officers amongst thousands of PBORs and officers. But I have not seen much of difference when it comes to how you're commanding. I've commanded a unit. I was just 5 years of service in the forces, and I was given the command of a unit. So I have not seen that kind of difference happening. We all were treated very well at par. Only one lacuna that still we have in the government policies is that the permanent commission, though it is shown that it is there for all, but it's not there, right? It started with not being there, then it was given to a specific number of officers, and then now they've put some percentage of women to whom it can be given and all that. So still we are not at equal rights. But then when it comes to how you are managing your personal professionals in the defense, yeah, I think it is far better. It is challenging, of course, because when you are given with certain duties, because in forces we travel a lot out of station also. So that time, who is going to take care of your baby? So if you're, in fact, I would tell you, my parents. When I had my first daughter, so she was in emergency delivery. I was still commanding the unit. While in office, I had to be taken to the labor room, and my mom came down and she said that I'm not going to. I was in the northeast at the time, and she clearly told me that I'm not going to stay here with your baby and you. At this area, because of course that was not that a good city. So that gave me a lot of fear in the back of my mind, that how am I going to continue, and that 100% with the permanent commission policies that did play a role in me taking a decision to quit in 10 years.
Right. So you had the option, Squadron Leader Kala, to continue, but you chose not to
So
because of for family reasons. You wanted to
yeah,
raise
Satish. So I
start a
had an
family.
option to continue for 4 years,
Right.
and by the time I was leaving, that same year the policy had come that 10% of the entire course would be chosen to continue for permanent commission.
Yes.
So of course it was a carrot hanging in front of the rabbit. So I didn't want to hang for that carrot, and I was clear that if it is 4 years, only 4 years, then be it now, because then I did not have any support.
Right. So, in fact, that's a thing. I mean, this is a huge problem that we're talking about women falling out of the workforce and, choosing to raise a family. I want to ask Rebecca if there's anything that can be done to improve things on this front, Rebecca. I mean, can it be legislated, for instance, to mandate childcare in working places?
See, I'll tell you, I work in the court system, and it was only 2 years ago that the Delhi High Court formally inaugurated a creche in its
Yes.
premises. What was telling, however, was all the women judges were on the panel, and
Right.
they came and they inaugurated it. And a very senior judge said, why is it not a male problem? Why is it only that women
Yes.
judges are inaugurating it and women lawyers are present at this inauguration?
Right.
Because after all, bringing up children is a partnership between the father and the mother.
Yes.
And why is the burden always on the mother?
Right.
So it was very telling that even today, even within court premises,
Yes.
you have this kind of typecasting where the women judges were part of the committee which helped set up the creche, and
Yeah.
it was the women judges who inaugurated it, with the men not present anywhere near the creche. So I think it's representative of what we all go through.
Right.
Can it be legislated upon? I think we already over-legislate on a lot of things. These are
Right.
societal issues.
Yes.
As a society, we must move forward where we treat women as equals.
Right.
And while we celebrate this day and the achievements of women,
Yes.
let me also say, let's look at women outside cities, in our rural areas, in our semi-urban areas, where their challenges are so much more different from ours.
Right.
It's a day-to-day survival. And what kind of help do they get? Do they get any help? Are they victims of domestic violence?
Yes.
I mean, there's just so much to go into. So while we talk of our own professional journey, we must be mindful of the fact that as a country, we need to look at discrimination against women at multiple levels.
Right.
And unless you empower them, put them in positions of authority where
Yes.
where they're capable of taking decisions, along with support systems, I don't think you will have an increase in the workforce as far as women are concerned.
Rebecca, I just want to
Absolutely.
ask you a follow-up question to this. This is 75th year. We're talking about republic. We are democracy. How are the other countries who are doing well and are democracies? How are they managing? Because, I mean, in India, you still have the privilege of asking your parents, or you have a house help, but abroad they don't have all of this, and yet the number of women workforce is more than India. So what are they doing right that we are not?
It's a bit of conditioning. I think here, I speaking for myself, when I had my child, because my mother was available in the same city,
Yes.
Yes.
I kind of didn't think twice before leaving my child with her. And I will definitely say my mother played a very, very important role in my growth as a professional, because I would have been conflicted otherwise. Um, uh, so that's not something that other countries have. That's something which is peculiar to India. However, what other countries have are support systems, like, as I said, within organizations, you should have creches, you should have, as was stated by the previous speaker, longer hours in school, extra activities in schools, which gives the woman at least good hours to work.
Right.
In my profession, unfortunately, it's such a brutal profession. We reach home at 9 or 10 at night.
Right.
The kind of support we ought to receive is completely different, which is why I see so many young women slowly exiting the profession because they feel it's too brutal. The timings are too brutal. So really it's a combination of things. We need external support, besides a lot of change in the way we decide to start a family. Our partners, our husbands, our families have to look at this as their responsibility as much as ours. So it is a social response as well as some kind of legislative response that is required.
I just want to ask Advaita one
Yes.
thing. Advaita, Rebecca had talked about conditioning. We've seen film stars, and especially the actresses, because they normally are the face and the front. What do you have to say about their conditioning? Do you think that has changed? I mean, we've seen, yes, married, leading ladies, now mothers who are leading ladies and are being accepted. But there is a very typical look that that they need to have, and they have to be in terms of their body structure, their faces. Do you think all of that is changing and has changed from over the 75 years? And if not, what is it that they're not doing right? I mean, this is a very stereotypical look that everybody has also today, and they have to conform. So how is that changing, evolving, and what needs to be done? And who will do it?
My film Kahani, which came out about 10, 11 years ago, I remember it was very difficult to even get it greenlit because it was, first of all, a female-centric story.
Yeah.
Then it was a female-centric story in a very male genre, which is a thriller.
A thriller,
Yeah.
And on
yes.
top of that, my female protagonist was pregnant. So she had none of the tropes that traditional mainstream Hindi films employ, which is a certain sexual appeal,
Yes.
dance, all of those kind of things. And it was certainly a challenge. Now, since then, if I look at just the last decade, there's certainly been an evolvement in the way women characters have been written and presented on the big screen. Has it been as much as it should be? No, it hasn't, because it's still a very male-dominated profession, which is what I mentioned earlier on also, in terms of the remuneration. But what I have seen, and I see that as a very positive thing, is female actors now stepping into their power a little more, which didn't happen earlier. Earlier, the ultimate for a heroine was, she lives her great beauty years till 30, 35. I mean, 30 was like the death knell, right? And then you find a nice man to marry, either a businessman or someone who lives abroad, and then you fade away from the spotlight. Now we don't see that happen. We see women in their late 30s, still very active, still getting work, still being in the mix. First, it was thought
Yeah.
if you get married, then you aren't this sort of virginal epitome of womanhood that the Indian male aspires to. So then your career is over. So there were all these tropes. But now what you have is, actors stepping into their power, female actors, saying that, okay, I'm going to start a production company. If I'm not getting the films that I want to work in and use my talent for, then I'm going to produce my own movies. And that's what they're doing. Alia Bhatt is doing a fine job of that.
Yes.
So is Anushka Sharma. So they're really taking charge of their own professional lives. And that comes, of course, with a certain amount of monetary freedom, which they
Right.
have earned themselves. So I think there's a long way to go. But like I said, let's look at the Oscar nomination list. Why just in India? Look at Hollywood.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
such big movie called Barbie, for heaven's sake, and Margot Robbie gets like overlooked. So does Greta.
Greta is also
Yeah.
not, reckoning in the reckoning for the director,
Yeah.
best director thing. I mean, I never understood that one. Why would that? Why
At
would
least
they never get?
we have Neena Gupta and Zeenat Aman who are rocking it
Yes.
at their age, and
Yeah.
it's such a fantastic thing to see.
In their 70s. But I want to bring in Archana on this other point that Rebecca mentioned the brutal profession that the legal, system is. But there's another brutal profession, which is politics. And, women have some of the lowest representation there. It's like 15% in parliament. It's one of the lowest again in the world. And there's been a lot of legislation there. They've brought in the Naari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam for reservation for women. But it seems like it's going to be a while before you're going to see women in decent numbers in parliament. You think Nari Shakti actually doesn't mean anything when the Naris are not in positions of Shakti?
I think, we should look at what happened with the Panchayati,
Yes.
the Panchayati Raj bill. When you legislated to have women as the Sarpanch, initially and even now, a lot of these, the powers were exercised by their husband, right? And you have this
Yes.
title of Sarpanch Pati. But over time, once you have women in nominal positions of power,
Yeah.
over time you find that it does convert into an actual position of power.
Yeah.
So many of the women have started exercising their rights, and maybe not as fast as we like, but you are seeing a change. So if you ask me whether women's reservation will help, I think it will help in perception. It will also help in selection of women candidates, because also you must remember the way Indian politics works. It's the people vote for a party
Yeah.
more than they vote for a candidate, right? So the selection is not bottom up, but it is top down.
Yes.
So you have this women selection is influenced. How many women are selected becomes a decision from the top.
Winnability is a big criteria then. They look at winnability.
So it is said.
Yes.
But if for example, a party which is likely to win in a place puts
Yes.
a woman candidate, do you think it will not win? I think it would still win, right?
Yeah.
Right.
If BJP is expected to win from a particular constituency, they would still win.
Right.
So this is also a concept. This is also somewhat of a choice.
That's a
At least
gender
for
barrier there.
many
that you think-
constituencies, it's a choice that can be
Right.
made. But
Yes.
so I think, the basic thing is if women are out there, they're there in public life, they own their own time.
Yes.
Then you will, by themselves, the women will make a place for themselves.
Right.
But they need to be, their own time has to be owned by them. And that is something we need to work very hard at. Either we get rid of the guilt feelings or we provide institutional support, which could be, as you said, longer school hours or whatever. And the way, if you see evolution of society,
Yes.
the more role models you have, suppose there is a woman who's done very well, but she's very far from you, it doesn't mean anything. But suppose your neighbor's wife is earning a lot of money, going out, doing things, then that influences your behavior and your choices to a much greater extent.
Yeah.
So you just need to create those role models in every neighborhood, and you may see a very fast change.
Right, role models, and you're going to see a fast change. And Squadron Kala, this women in the armed forces, particularly because today is Republic Day parade, and we saw so many women marching down, and women are now getting permanent commissions and commanding frontline units. What more actually remains to be done, you think, to get more people to get more women to join the armed forces? Because I'm fully aware of the fact that while we are celebrating them today, there are just a little over 7,000 women officers in the armed forces, and the Indian armed forces are second largest in the world.
Yeah.
It's like over 1 million strong, and they're just a drop in the ocean. How can you make them count in the armed forces, Squadron Kala?
Absolutely, Sandeep. We are just 7,000 as of now.
Yeah.
But then, I guess, how do we make us count is, as told very categorically. This is the only point, that we need to have more role models, and then we have to have those institutional support. So
Yes.
Sandeep, we have to absolutely understand and accept this point. See, the entire where does the future of our nation lie upon? It's on the future generation, right? Our
Yes.
kids. So if there is no one to look after the kids, and we already know, with the Gen Z, with the mobile technology and more technology coming in, parents are, already crying with the mobile thing with their kids and all that. They're not eating food
Yes.
without the phone. And I mean, those small things which are increasing the stress level. Imagine if this continues, where the future generation is going to go if none of the parents are with the kids,
Yes.
right? So if that support itself, this is the only thing I'm telling you, Sandeep, from the core of my heart, and you can, you can take a poll on this, that the support is the only thing which is still lacking in a big way, which is somewhere holding our hand behind. See, now
Yes.
I'm in an online space. I'm an online coach, and I work from home, totally work from home. I have a separate room. So this now I do not even think of, even if I'm being offered a job with much higher remuneration or anything. I just cannot think about doing that, because then who is going to take care of my kids?
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
So that is the only thing. And if you provide me that kind of support and that kind
Yes.
of little push, that
Yeah.
yes, I'm there, then
Right.
who can stop me from flying, or flying with my wings in the sky? I will
Absolutely.
be the Navast Parshan Deeptam of the
And Geeta,
force.
coming back to your point, thank you very much, Squadron Leader Kala. Coming back to your point, that's the only thing that's holding women back from
Yeah.
flying high. Support. You need support. So while we are celebrating our women of the Republic, we've come so far, but there's still a long way to go. I'd like to thank my co-panelists for such an engaging discussion today. I've really enjoyed doing this one. Thank you very much, Rebecca, Advaita, Squadron Leader Kala, and Archana, and of course my colleague Geeta Datta. Thanks for watching.